All right, welcome everybody to the Rodriguez Project. This is something I've been thinking about for a couple of years, and now based on some things happening, we're doing the very first episode with my good friend Kim Mantsur. How are you today?
I feel amazing, and I appreciate you for giving me the space and inviting me. It's honestly so amazing to see your growth and the work you've been putting in. And I'm super excited to be here.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is yesterday we were talking about just meeting today and talking about what each of us are doing and just see if there's some synergy and how we're like both growing, how we could both grow together in some different aspects of life and business and all of that. And then you kind of just checked in, which I love that you checked in to like confirm that we were working today or meeting today. And then you had said, well, what are we doing exactly? And I was like, oh, well, I have a painter coming in. I don't know if we probably won't film anything. And then the painter canceled last minute. And I was like, so something's telling me I should just jump into the podcast, and you were so gracious to say, yeah, let's do it. And then, 2 hours later, here we are.
Right. And it's pretty dope, like it's important to come prepared. I was like thinking about it yesterday. I was like, I'm going to write down ideas and stuff that I am going to talk about. But the fact that it kind of caught us off guard is super dope. I think it's going to be raw and, just real like that.
Yeah. And that, because you're no stranger to deep conversations. And that's one thing with me, like growing up, I grew up in Detroit and moved here when I was 20. And I was always very, I wouldn't say shy all the time, and I was honest, I was truthful, but I always felt like I didn't want to tell people my full truth. I'm like, I don't want them to think I'm this or that. Now, based on growth in just life, based on acting and being a creative, and now where I'm at in my life, I like sharing everything. And some might say I even overshare, but I just love being so transparent and people learning from my mistakes. There was a time and place where I was like, I don't want anybody to know about my mistakes because I'm trying to build a business and I don't want them to think like I'm struggling right now. And then now being able to look back in hindsight, I'm like, okay, I want people to learn from every single downfall that I've had and learn how I overcame it and see if that could help with their life, or just to let them know that everybody is going through something. So right. Have you always been open and honest with everything that you've been doing, or is that like with your truth? How have you navigated that?
I feel like I've been pretty open as far as, sometimes I tend to overshare too. But definitely I feel like before I do, I have this little phase that I have to understand, like before I talk about what I'm going through or the mistake or the downfall, it's kind of like at first it's internal. Like I have to understand, how do I feel about what happened, and like kind of like do a little self-reflection before I communicate it to the outer world. Because if I'm going to talk about it, it has to be in a way that is really like, I don't want to have doubts. I want to know exactly how I feel about something. And I want to feel complete before I talk about it and share how I feel about it. And the thing about it that a lot of times something that I thought was a mistake later on is not really a mistake. So how I feel about certain things that happened before is continually like changing, based on how I feel now. So
yeah. So how would you find so based on like self-reflection and stuff like that, how would you even go about that? Is it just really like meditating on the different ideas or the different things that are going on in your life, and then from there you're able to analyze it and understand it, and then from that point share it to the world? Or what's your process like for that?
It's like, for example, like I'm gonna think about something. You know how like you can look at a situation from different perspectives? I like to find the perspective that I feel most comfortable with. For example, like if somebody did something that I don't like or maybe made me feel uncomfortable, I could stay in the perspective of like, this person is wrong and, they made a mistake. But maybe if I think about it a little longer, maybe there's something in the way I see it, because at the end of the day, like we all do something that we think is the best move based on our experience in our world. So nobody is really doing something like against you. People really do what they think is best for them, and if I can find that compassionate place in me, like that non-judgmental place, and I can feel better about the situation, then I can talk about it and be like, I can say this person was crazy, this person was that, but right, there are certain things that happen because of the way I was responding or the way I was looking at the situation, which made me feel that way. But I can always change how I feel if I change how I look at it. So this is, I think, the little work that we have to do as people, like be able to use our imagination and that creativity to view things from different point of views, you know, and not be so attached to the way we see the person or the world or how we think it should go.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. And that's one thing about perspective. One of my favorite things that I've done, and I've only done it a couple times in my 36 years on this planet, where I'm able to actually purposefully remove myself from the equation by going somewhere else. Because if you're in your day-to-day life and you're in your same home, you're going through your same, just your similar day-to-day, it's hard to see everything from that perspective because you're just like, you're in it. But when you remove yourself, one of my favorite places was Santa Barbara. I went to Santa Barbara for a few days, was able to reflect on a relationship and my life. And I was just from a different point of view. I'm like, oh, now I'm starting to understand. I actually allowed this to happen based on my behavior. And it's tough for us men too. I think a lot of times we're just like, we know it all. And now I know I don't know everything. And I'm like seeking that, because like even in relationships, I would have times where, you know, it would be an argument or something. And then most of the women that would, you know, say something to me, I would be defensive right away. And then I'd be like, oh, whatever, like it's all them or whatever. And then say we'd break up or whatever happened 2 years later, I'd look back at it and be like, oh, now I understand. And now I can learn from it. But it took me 2 years to get to learning about it. Yeah. Now give me like 10 seconds if it's a conversation or argument or whatever it is, or just trying to figure something out, I can almost immediately see it where I'm wrong and voice that so that we can get to a level of clarity and understanding versus like being pissed off. So I get self-reflective almost immediately within that. Does that feel like something similar in your life, or like with men in particular, or?
Yeah, I feel so. I think what it is I can find myself in other people, but it's not really like, how do I explain this? Like I can understand and forgive from the place of understanding, like, you know, maybe what I feel about that person is still my own judgment, and I'm going to make judgments. I'm going to feel like I know everything. And maybe the first phase would be like, I want to make better judgments, right? I want to make sure I see this person in a higher light. I want to make sure I see people for the best way. But at the end of the day, that's also a judgment. So how do I live my life in a way that I know my mind is going to make judgments. I'm going to think I know everything. But as long as I remember that I'm not what I'm thinking, then I can leave room for the people. If they make mistakes, then I'm not disappointed. Like I have the room to let them be who they are. I feel like the funny thing about men and relationship is that I always viewed the best in people. And it made me like kind of overlook other stuff and be like, no, it's okay. Like I can still focus on what I love about that person and what I think makes them so special. But then it would be things that I'd be like, can I really overlook that? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. That would be my thing.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I used to fall in love with the potential a lot, because I would just see, because I'm so optimistic, but a lot of times it would lack some like practical steps. Right. So that I'm from a point of like, no, it'll get better. And then even if you stay, I would stay in it longer. And then it's like, well, I don't want all of this, like the downfall of it. I want it to mean something and help later on. But most of the time, you know, unless you're dealing with maybe two healed people or a foundation of an actual really great relationship, it's hard to start off on the wrong foot and then have a long relationship that isn't necessarily there, but always like, oh, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. It's like, nah. Yeah. Most of the time, it's not, at least in my life, it hasn't never gotten there.
Right. Because people are going to be who they are, you know? And I think it's a dope thing to find people who are willing to learn and grow, because like I said about the judgment thing, like, yeah, I'm gonna make judgments about you, but if I don't identify with that, then I don't think you should be in any way but who you really are. And then vice versa, like you don't put judgments on me, and you're not trying to fit me into a box of how you think I should be or how you think relationships should be, or, you know, you just let things be the way they are, and you just kind of like synchronize yourself with those simple way, you know? And I think this is a major thing that I see, like a lot of my friends, they have an idea of how a man should be, how we should treat them and how we should go. But if you let go of that idea, then you're going to be able to see the way things are,
Yeah.
and maybe you're going to be surprised because you don't know everything.
Yeah. And that's another thing too that I've been seeing a lot lately is people that are like, okay, they've painted the perfect picture of what their future is versus letting, whatever is supposed to be for them be for them. So it's like, like checking off all the boxes. We have this, we have this, we have that, but he doesn't have this.
Right.
So it's not perfect. And it's like, well, maybe that wasn't like the right formula for you anyways. But I think that expectations get us in a lot of trouble, I think, too.
Yes, and we don't even realize that, how expectations get in the way. I have friends, and sometimes, they talk about different things, and they be like, like, I like that person, but I don't like when they do this, this, and that, or like, I don't like this, this, and that, but I feel like you can't get there from there, because what are you going to be focused on? If you focus on something that you don't like, you're going to find more things you don't like. How you going to get to the point of seeing the things you do like and the things that do excite you if you continually talking about the things that kind of like threw you off?
Yeah.
How you going to get there? You can't.
Yeah. How do you feel? It's actually just brought up something. How do you feel about getting a psychic reading and asking about the person that you're dating? So I think I've had a lot of really great experiences with tarot card reading and my family within psychics and stuff like that, some really monumental stuff. But also like anything, there's some people that maybe aren't as great at what they do, right? Yeah. So like, do you ever see psychics or anything like that?
I actually did a reading not too long ago when I was in Vegas. And it was actually very, very dope. I thought it was, she said things that I was like I low-key needed to hear that, I think what it is, they kind of like read off your energy in that present moment, which is important to understand, because some people be like, I want the person to tell me my future.
Yeah.
There is no future. They can only tell you based on your vibration right now, and if you could ask about another person, like, okay, psychic, like, what do you think I should do about this and that person? But one thing to remember is that anybody that I see, you talking to me right now, right? But how you reading me is still you. It's still your own vibration. You know what I'm saying? And you come to figure out that everything is you. If you listen to a radio, right? It's different voices. You hear a man, you hear women, you hear maybe traffic. It's still radio. It's just different vibrations.
Yeah.
The radio doesn't tell you, hi, good morning, Mark. Right now you're going to listen to me. I'm just going to give you different vibrations. And at the end of the day, it's still me, the radio. It's the same thing with the world around us. It's not like the world is telling you, hey, Mark, it's me, the self. Everything you see is me. It's just different vibrations.
Yeah.
And it's almost as if these things are separate than one another. It's as if almost I'm a different than you, or separate than you. At the end of the day, I am also you.
Yeah.
Because you use your own vibration to perceive me and to understand what I am, what I mean to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So any person I'm going to ask about to the psychic is still somehow, she is going to translate that as a vibration of me. How can I ever know that person if they continually changing? You could be different than now, and 5 minutes from now you can be a whole different idea or something. It's still what I think of you. Yeah. But it's still not who you are.
Yeah, it's that's super interesting. I had somebody came to me, I forget who it was, but they were like, yeah, and then she saw a psychic and then she said that it wasn't the right fit for the guy and stuff, and it was like, well, wait a second. So it's because based on who you're going, unless there's somebody that's well vetted, it's like, well, number one, are you going to trust their opinion? But number two, like if what you're saying works for this as well, it's like, okay, well, she was probably reading however the person was feeling and that energy. So it was based on their current energy and why it wouldn't be conducive with the relationship with that person, but it wasn't based on that person. It's based on how they're feeling about that person based on whatever energy that they're putting out.
Right. And that can be like a good tool in that scenario, because, sometimes we feel something, or we have this intuition or inner feeling, but we're so identified with the mind that we can convince ourselves that this is the relationship for me. I'm convinced this man is for me. He pays my bills. He does 1, 2, 3. Well, practically what I'm seeing above the surface, it's all fitting the check, right? Perfect. It is the perfect relationship. But something within me is telling me, I don't know. So maybe she went to the psychic and the psychic could feel that, feeling like the way she was talking about it,
Yeah.
But we can be so identified with ego and like logic. And it's like, you can't just go off logic. Like sometimes, you know, right away if you gravitate towards somebody or you don't.
Yeah.
You can't just look at what they have or what they do, because there's something about the chemistry of their energy, first and foremost.
Yeah.
You know, what's the vibe like?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That vibe reading.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've had some really life-changing moments with like tarot card reading, and I was very closed-minded to it initially. And then I went, and there was a specific time where I was going back to Michigan for 2 months to like recalibrate and figure out how I was going to like come back with a different business plan. And I didn't know if it was a good idea or not. So I asked the tarot card reader after she did a really brilliant reading. It was spot on. I was like, is it a good idea that I'm going back to Michigan for 2 months? And she did the whole thing, boom, boom, boom. And she was like, it looks like you're going back to spend the last 2 months of someone's life before they pass away. So yes, it's a good idea. And at this time I'd been in LA for 10 years. I had never been back to Michigan for more than 5 days. And for like twice a year. So now I was going back for 2 months, and it ended up, so I went back, and there was 3 people that were not doing so well. My one grandmother was in the hospital. The other one got diagnosed with cancer, and my other friend was in the hospital for alcoholism. And I was like, okay, I think we have it narrowed down, but I don't want to say anything. My friend got sober. He's been sober since then. And this has now been like 7 or 8 years. My other grandmother, they figured out her cancer was like, it wasn't what they thought it was. But I got to spend the last 2 months of my other grandma in the hospital with her. And as soon as after the 2 months went, I came back to LA, she passed away the next day.
What?
And it was like, and this is coming from someone like, oh, okay, yeah, this is bullshit, whatever. And then it was just a pivotal moment in my life where I'm like, okay, there's something here. And then that happened. And I was like, it was just life changing. You know?
Oh my God, I literally have chills. Like that's crazy. I'm sorry to hear.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it's been several years now, maybe 6, 7 years now, but yeah, it was, you know, but the fact, like, I'm so grateful for that time spent. I got to spend the last 2 months in the hospital with my grandmother by her side. I wrote a song about it. I have a bunch of videos where she's talking about my other grandfather and like, just some beautiful stuff for the family to reflect on. And then what an experience for me from being away for now 16 years, but at that time it was about a decade, and seeing her maybe once or twice a year to then get to spend her last 2 months.
Whoa.
I'm so grateful that the world and just the universe has everything changed, and I was going through transition, but it put me, and all of those changes that I could have looked at negatively allowed me to go spend that time and have that moment in my life, which is one of the most, if not the most meaningful thing that's ever happened to me.
Right.
Yeah.
It's literally insane. And the thing is, you was open to it. I think that's the first thing. You was
barely. I was still a closed-minded dude, right? Young and just like, but I was a little bit, the window was open, and then now it's wide open.
And it's crazy because like we think to ourselves, how would she know, right? And I think what it is that, you know, there's like, as we know, there's the infinite intelligence, and like we all, at the end of the day, we're all connected. Like, you know, we're able to talk through telepathy. I could be on the other side of the world thinking about you, and because I thought about you, you're going to think about me. I could be on the other side of the world. So, you know, there is a way for us to really know more than we think we know. Yeah. You know, and when you open to it, when you ask the question, it's like the answer is going to come. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, I'm so wide open to everything now, where, like I said before, I was very close-minded and young, and just, you know, I knew everything at the time, and now that I know I don't know everything, I'm just dedicated to growth no matter what. If it's something new, I'm like, okay, how can I learn from this person that specializes in this thing? Because obviously there's something there, and there's way more than I could even grasp, and there's always something new. So anytime now, where before I'd be like, that's whatever, that's bullshit. Now I'm like, what is it? Oh, I would love to learn about it. What do you? Right. How does it have impacted your life positively? And
right, it's like two things can be true at once. Yeah. You know everything, but you also don't know anything. It's like everything in the world has two sides. It's like that duality. You know, nothing is only one thing. Every truth has two sides. Almost every truth is a paradox. You know, everything is real and is not real at the same time. You know everything and you don't know at the same time. So it's important to be able to have that rhythm between the 2 degrees. Everything is one thing but has 2 different degrees. Yeah. And sometimes in life you have to approach and act as if you know everything. Sometimes you have to approach things as if you don't know anything. You have to remain both.
Yeah, neutral in that. Yeah, because I think as we even transition into like business and like that kind of life stuff, as you have to be confident in whatever you are doing to be able to communicate to somebody else, to whether you're going to direct a film or you're starting a business or whatever it is. You have to know it as much as possible, but then always be open to learning new things that you can add to your box of tricks.
Right.
And that's one thing that, like, I don't know if you've ever struggled with this. We hear a lot about imposter syndrome now, and a lot of people that are like, whether it's thinking that society is putting a light on imposter syndrome, like light on them, whether it's something that they've developed internally.
What exactly? Can you explain to me?
Yeah, so I think it's basically when somebody feels like, so say I want to be a writer, but I don't consider myself a writer because I haven't done enough work or something like that, but I want to be considered a writer and people won't give me opportunity. It's almost like whatever it is that you want to do, you're saying that you're doing it, but you're feeling like you're an imposter, that you're not really that. You're just almost like, that's the surface, but you don't want them to know that you don't think that you consider yourself like that. So like whether it's when you first started dance or now with like fitness and stuff, have you ever felt anything like that?
I actually have. And I think maybe it's me being a Gemini and kind of airy of having all the ideas, and I'm this and I'm that and I'm this. But remember what I said, that everything is two things, 2 degrees. I think here comes it's a good opportunity to use this example of spirit and matter, right? Because these 2 things are 2 degrees of one thing. You're also spirit, but you also matter. It's just matter is a lower degree of spirit. So if I'm a spiritual person and I have all of these ideas, but I'm not taking the action practically and physically, of course I'm not going to believe I'm that. But if I do it every day, I do a little bit of it. If I'm telling myself, yeah, I'm a dancer, I tell people I'm a professional dancer. But if I don't get in the studio every day, or at least 3 times a week to practice and get better, I'm not convinced in myself that I'm that.
Yeah.
But if I do it every day, if I take the practice, because it's not about just being here, it's a mind, body, and soul. You know what I mean? And having that balance of spiritually knowing what you want and then putting the practical work,
Yeah.
and being realistic, but in a way that is like, I understand that there is a physical world, that in order for me to experience where I'm at in spirit, I have to put certain action in the physical world. These things that are no separate than one another. So if people can be, in their mind, in their spirit, really know that they love something so much, but then maybe there's a lack of self-discipline, of maybe doing it every day. Maybe there's a lack of faith, of maybe I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
So we can call it the imposter syndrome, and people be like, okay, maybe I have it. Maybe something is wrong with me and I have that and I'm diagnosed. Honestly, take action. Be self-disciplined enough to give it a time a day. If it's painting, then paint. Practice it. Get better at it. And you notice how your subconscious mind is going to be impressed by these actions. And you're going to take a step, and then another thing is going to come just because you taken the action. True faith is when you take action. If you don't take action, you don't believe you are that for real, for real.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Jim Carrey said, he was talking about manifesting, and then he was like, but you have to, he wrote himself a check and all this stuff, but he's like, you can't manifest and write yourself a check and then just go eat a sandwich. You have to like go do the work afterwards.
Exactly.
So I think not to say there isn't something maybe very real about imposter syndrome and people that have that can't get away from it, but definitely, discipline and patience and knowing that, like, even people that have been putting in the 10,000 hours even still have those feelings and those thoughts too. It's just, I think when those kind of thoughts creep in, it's like, okay, well, I try to remove myself from the situation, understand it, and then bulldoze through those different things too, because a lot of the stuff that when I'm consulting, whether it's business or social media or whatever, a lot of we're humans. So we have these different thoughts that even if you are super disciplined, you still might have those things, until a certain point in time, right. Or even at that point where you've been super successful as a writer, director, whatever, but then something else might creep in. You'll start feeling a certain type of way. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not as good as I used to be. But having those thoughts creep up in whatever you're doing, I think it's so important to be able to bulldoze through those and then continue pushing forward, because it really just comes down to action.
Right. And it makes sense for people to feel that way sometimes, because we live in a world that all around you, there's somebody telling you what to do and how to do it.
Yeah.
Everywhere you look, there's people telling you what's right and what's wrong. And maybe you want to be a dancer and you see these amazing choreographers who do amazing jobs and work for amazing people. And you say to yourself, damn, that's so far away from me. and you're like,
It's so daunting sometimes.
yeah, but guess what? Even those people who are in those places have their own
Mm-hmm.
problems and their own thing that they, think to themselves, like, how am I going to deal with this? And even those people look at other people and say, man, when am I going to get there? Or so there's really like an important to, I have to remind myself sometimes and say, like, I'm not going to get to a point where there's no more to improve. I'm not going to get to a point where there's no more like better I can get. So I might as well enjoy what I have now, and it's an important thing because people look at other people and they say, okay, I can't wait to get there and I can't wait to be that. But yeah, that person gains joy from being on set, maybe for a huge commercial, and they gain that satisfaction. But maybe where you are, you have an interaction with a client who wants you to do maybe a small thing for them, but you can still produce the same amount of satisfaction and the same amount of gratitude if you look at it the right way.
Yeah.
Yes, be inspired by the other people, but understand that there is beauty in a journey,
And that's the most beautiful part.
right?
I had a moment, and I talk about it a lot because I feel comfortable doing it. But I had a moment where I did sell everything that I owned, and it was a point in time where I was not good at asking for help. I got it on my own, whatever. And there was a point where I finally was aligned. I had just stopped waiting tables, and I was decided I wanted to go forward with Mastermind Media. And I had like 1 or 2 clients, but I had sold everything, so I was couch surfing, but I didn't like asking people if I could stay on their couch because I didn't want to ask for help. And if I did, I didn't want to overstay my welcome. So by like 2 or 3 days, I'm like, oh, okay, I have somewhere else to go. I'm good. Thank you so much. But then I would just sleep in my car. And I had this old 92 Lexus that was about to fall apart any day. But I had this moment of when I finally rearranged everything and realigned, where I was in my car. I was sleeping on Riverside Drive in Sherman Oaks, right across the street from that Westfield Mall over there. I don't know if you've been there. And it was like a place that I would sleep often in my car right there. And it was like a Rob Thomas song was playing. And I remember I Snapchatted it just so I could have the video. I didn't like post it, but I was finally happy, but I didn't have anything, but I was just happy because I was finally aligned.
Yeah.
And that same happiness is the same happiness that when I finally had enough money to go move into a 3-bedroom townhouse with roommates, it was the same happiness that I moved into the place downstairs when I first moved in there was the same place now. Like this happiness didn't change. It's just
Right.
the people around me and the things that I'm doing. But once you're aligned and you are obsessed with the journey, that was the moment that it actually clicked for me. And now it doesn't matter, and which I'm so grateful to have that foundation and the gratitude for that, because I told myself if I didn't make it in 3 years as an actor, then I didn't try hard enough when I first moved here. But young 20-year-old Marcos didn't know the hell he was talking about. And if I would have popped off then, I probably would have ruined it because I was a hothead kid that just would have been like a flash in the pan. But now 16 years of building a foundation, throw anything at me, I can build upon it and use it for that. So that was a really big moment in my life. Did you have a moment where things finally clicked for you? I remember you shared something on your Instagram about when you were, I don't know if you were going to Palm Springs for an opportunity or something. Yeah, it was really cool. But I don't know if that one in particular, or if there was another one.
First of all, what you said is honestly amazing. And one of the main things that I feel people have to hear and know, because that's when you really realize that everything is within you. And you don't need a proof from the outside to know that you already have everything. I don't need to have the proof of the apartment or the house or the acting prize or the movie to know that I can be happy now. It's all about right here.
Yeah.
And I think what it is for me is that when I grew up, there wasn't like a specific, nobody was really telling me what's right and what's wrong. I have my loving family, but my parents were figuring out things on their own. They had to figure out, they were very young, but I didn't have nobody telling me you should do this, go there, do this. Nobody checked if I did my homework. Nobody checked nothing. I did my homework because as a child, you already have everything, all the knowledge. Without them starting to teach you what's right and what's wrong, you already know. So I did my homework because I knew that it feels better to respect the teacher when she said, did you do it? And you say, yeah, rather than looking at other kids and they say no, and she's mad at them. That doesn't look like it's a lot of fun,
Yeah.
right? So I knew as a child, it's all about having fun, right? I have to have fun, no matter what it is. And then slowly in the journey of my life, I always went to the direction that just felt good, just because it felt good, And even coming over here, I feel like feeling good is the alignment right? Why would you have a brain and a consciousness that has this coding that certain things feel good and certain things don't feel good? Why is it that way? That's like literally an inner guidance system, you know? So I think it was a really big blessing that I had only my own world as a kid. And I feel like that's when, without calling it alignment, I knew. Because I just followed that happiness. Wherever it was, I followed it. Whether if it's just looking at the stars from window of my room or dancing for no reason, just following this fun, you know. And when you were sitting in that car, and you could have looked at it from so different perspectives, right? You could look at from the idea of like, in 3 years I have to be this and that, and place yourself in this place emotionally of frustration or like dissatisfaction. But when you was in that car and you watched something and you felt that little inspiration and you knew that you was at the right place at the right time, regardless of circumstances, you knew that within you somewhere it felt like a relief. Something felt right. And I think we have to focus on that feeling, you know, and we think about logic and we say, no, why would it feel good? No, it's probably not good for me. Or listen, don't condition that desire too much. Does it feel good? Yes or no? You know, I think that's where I learned about alignment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super interesting too. Because you hear a lot of times people are like, I don't know what I want to do with my whole life. And I'm like, you know, and that's why it is really important to try different things. And I didn't know. I knew what I wanted at 20 was to act. And then as I got to LA and I realized I could do a lot of different creative things, then I was hosting and modeling and doing music and showcases and stuff. And a lot of people, you know, could say, oh, you know, maybe you have too many interests or whatever. But at that point I was able to literally go across the board and say, okay, this is everything that I like doing, but what I'm best at. So I could eventually focus just on that. But then from there, years later, starting a digital agency where all of those years of experience of trying different things, I could now take that and put that into Mastermynd Media and now help people in those different genres and lanes.
Right.
I could have looked at it like, oh, why did I waste so much time? It's like, because now you have a lot I can do.
Right.
What's up, Phil?
Hi, what's good?
Come on in.
Nice to meet you.
This is Kim.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, this is supposed to be live, and you know, and so Phil's seen me do the most podcasts out of anybody in this room.
That's true.
But this is, I've been meaning to start the Rodriguez project for like 2 years now. I did a launch and I was like, oh, you gotta, I finally was like, okay, I'm going to do it. We're going to put out the first one in October. And then, I was supposed to have a painter come today and they were going to be painting this wall in there and then they didn't show up. So I was like, Kim, I think, we're going to do a podcast instead. So she's totally into it.
Right on.
Yeah,
well, I love it. Just go for it.
Yeah. So we just got a little bit longer. We're diving into Kim's whole world and everything. And then, but a lot, if you have any, if you want to jump in on anything, feel free to do so.
I'll let you take the lead. And if I see something, I'll jump in.
All right, cool.
And last thing I want to add, talking about the alignments and having fun, is what I'm noticing from you is that your evolvement as a human being is so advanced. Because, right, people can be like, yeah, I'm going to follow the good feeling of things, so I'm going to eat a cheesecake every day, right? But there's long-term fun. If you're able to see the long-term fun, then you can follow that alignment, even if it doesn't feel like good. That's where comes the self-discipline, so it all comes down to how evolved you are as a being, which I feel like it's super dope for you because you really have a good balance of seeing what you like and then applying it practically in the physical world, which is why you have these results and these people around you and this support. So
thank you so much for saying that. I somewhere along the way, I did lose a fear of failure because I just did a video recently talking about how I almost didn't go forward with Mastermynd Media, because actually not Mastermynd Media, the invention I had before, because one kid that I worked with at a restaurant was like, that's a stupid idea. And I was like, oh shit, I don't want to do this. If this could fail, I could look stupid in front of everybody. Now I try everything. It doesn't matter. We have based on having a really strong creative team, that anytime we want to do anything, I'm like, hey, what do you guys think about this? All right, let's try this. We're launching Mastermynd Music and Mastermynd Sports. let's see what happens. And then that's how we met initially. We started Mastermynd magazine, and was what I really still really love. And I still want to make time for it. But through like the series of 4 magazines that we did, where we had you on the cover of one of them, we wanted to showcase people doing what they love and thriving in it. And just people who are just someone to admire, however they go about life and business and all of that, and are true masterminds in whatever field they are in. But we did four different issues. It was really solid. I would love to eventually bring it back, but now we have a proof of concept of what this would look like and how we would go about it. Now we can think about how we can monetize and grow in viewership and clicks on the internet and stuff. But I don't regret that at all. Like, just by meeting you and other people and people that have like minds, I could have said like, oh shit, people think I'm an idiot because we tried to do 4 magazines and now we don't do it anymore. And people ask me, what happened to the magazine? I want to be a part of it. We ran out of funding for it. So I was going to bring other funding in and it didn't work out. But to think that like I would regret that for any reason is just, you try things and some things work, some things don't.
Right. And why would you even regret that? You had to go through that. It's like, remember what I told you about evolution and how nature works? Yeah, like you have animals who, maybe if we came from sea and then at some point we got rid of certain things as an organism that we had because it's no use for us anymore. And maybe, those squirrels that fly from tree to tree and slowly they start to develop wings. So it started from an organism and it changes forms, but Mastermynd magazine is still a part of it. Because this is help you shape how you think and how you view and know what you like and know what you don't like. It brought to you certain people and it's all a part of one thing, And guess what? Even what it is now, as what you're building it now, it can be even something totally like different and bigger, because what it is the brand is who you are, right? And who you are, Mark, is something beyond your human understanding. You're so bigger than what you can see. And that's why this idea is always going to develop and grow and grow and grow, because physical always going to somehow try to catch up to infinite. You are infinite. So you're always going to get new ideas and you're always going to keep evolving and changing. So there's nothing to regret, but the fact that you keep taking action and keep putting effort and time and ideas, and you have all this whole approach, just keep it up, and it's probably going to grow into something you can't even predict.
Yeah.
If you just,
You're just being open to whatever it is. Because you can strategize all you want. You can game plan. I think a lot of people get caught up in strategizing and then they just never pull the trigger and go forward with something. Right. What was your first step into entertainment? Was it dancing?
It was dancing. But in Israel, I also started to do a little bit of modeling. So I would say the main gate in, like the way in, was dance, because I really always loved dancing so much. And then dance introduced me to being in front of a camera, because I was in school and I would have my little sister give her my phone, can you come here and shoot me dancing down the street? And she would film me and I would enjoy so much watching myself in video. And then I would be like, what if I film it in this area and maybe I will wear something like this? And I see, and it introduced me to the whole creative part of putting things into visuals, so it's not just me as a dancer. And I think this is something that kind of makes at least my brand or me a little different than people that I see around me. And when you ask them okay, what is your biggest goal as a dancer? Maybe they're going to tell you, I want to go on tour and I want to dance with this artist and that artist. But I feel like I use dance as more as creating visuals. I don't want to necessarily dance behind somebody. I want to be behind the whole visual. Yeah. And that's what gets me excited. And then, when you see the visual, obviously it can puts you in a place where you can write an idea or a funny skit. And because you see it in your mind, then naturally you're going to act it. And it's so much fun. Yeah. When you create it yourself. And I think that's the best part about being an entertainer, being able to understand the idea or seeing the vision and then deliver to the people. Yeah. And then seeing how they understand and how they take it.
And I think because I've seen now that you're directing things and all of that, it's you've mastered in my eyes, you've mastered the dance portion as you continue to grow and do your thing there, but also learning that part of it and then directing some, or seeing how they're shooting different things. You can speak the language, you can actually bring something to its fullest form based on learning all the different levels of it. And then now And now just seeing you take it from a concept to the finished product is something super dope. But being able to like be masterful in each of the other like sectors within the production, and then you can pull yourself back, hire people to do those things, talk the language, and then build something really beautiful.
Right. And something that I really noticed that you do too is you understand that people are gonna do their job best if you trust them. You know, because you can direct the whole situation and tell people exactly what to do. I can give you a little bit of direction, but at the end of the day, I hired you because I trust your judgment.
Yeah.
You know, so if I dance with you, if I want you to film my video, if I want you to edit my video, I'm pretty much going to tell you some way how I like it, but I'm still going to let you do your thing.
Yeah.
So that's the being humble and trusting the people around you that they're going to take it to the next level, because you can't do it all.
That collaboration. I remember Quentin Tarantino was talking about his first time. Phil, you might remember this. I don't know if you've heard the story, but Quentin Tarantino was in the Sundance lab with Reservoir Dogs. And he had asked one of the directors that was part of the Sundance lab, like, how am I supposed to get my vision onto the screen? And he was like, well, it's not you putting your vision on the screen. It was like, you have to hire the right people that can prove that they can do those different things, and then collectively you guys get the vision on the screen. But a lot of times as a director or a writer or something like that is going to think like, well, fuck, like this is what's in my head, how do I get it there? It's like, well, you go to the right light person based on the project. You have a different cinematographer based on the project and stuff like that too. Right. So like that was an interesting lesson, and I think it just takes a lot of the weight off your shoulders, where it's like, okay, this is my concept, but my vision is very similar to how this person shoots things. These are the dancers that are this is my vision. And then from there, you collectively put this puzzle together, and then it magically appears on the screen later on. Yeah. Right.
As a creator, you have to remember that you are the creator and not get too lost in your creation. You know, what I like about Hinduism and Zen, that they talk about a lot about they pretty much call it the Tao. It's a different conversation for us to have. But they say how the creator creates and forget he is the creator. He becomes so dissolved into his own creation, believing this is what he is. But the beauty of being a creator is being able to produce the creation and let it grow on its own. Let the world, you know what I'm saying? Like, because you are the creator, you can always create more, and you're always going to be bigger than anything you create. So why not bring that beautiful idea and bring the people that you trust and trust them to take it to the next level. Don't be too identified with this, like it has to be like this. No, I can't let it go. Let it go. Whatever you create, you're gonna be able to create more. Like, don't neglect it or forget about it. Just create with love, but with the sense of detachment. You know, because then you give the room for the people. You know what I mean? Like, I tell my DP all the time, what do you think is better? I say, Kim, this is going to be like that. It's going to be like this. What do you think is better? You know, and do it. Like, I trust you.
And then they feel even more empowered to do whatever you can.
Exactly.
We had a moment when we did this concept trailer for Rudolph that we're making into a film now. But there was something I didn't even know. I wrote and directed and produced and then even edited and scored on the back end and everything. And there was still one moment that I didn't realize, based on the DP that I hired, what like the brilliance that he brought to it. There was one shot where we were shooting something into it was the lead character that was playing Rudolph, so his nose glows, or his nose is red when it's cold. He's a human, he's not a reindeer, but he's looking into the mirror, and we had like some outdoor, because we shot it at night. It was supposed to, I forget what we were doing, whether it was moonlight or whatever that was coming through the window. And there was a moment I didn't even realize until like months after we had already released it, but he had a moment where Rudolph was looking down and he like looked up, and then based on the lighting, it made his nose glow off the reflection. But because like I hired the right person, and then he had his specific eye, something I didn't, he made me look more brilliant because I gave him the keys to drive the car and do whatever he wanted to do, whatever he thought was best. And there was only one shot out of the whole day that I was like, I disagreed on, and we were so tight on time that I pushed, and it was like, we're not going to do the shot, but everything throughout the day, just giving him to whatever he thought was best, and then, you know, give my point of view, and then collectively come up with a way to go about it. But yeah, when you have the right people around you, and you create the box and let them do their brilliance inside of it, then they bring everything to a whole new level when you have the right people.
And that's being a true leader. You know what I'm saying? A true leader leads without people. Like, at the end of the day, the people feel like they did it on their own. That's how you know you're a real leader, when they don't say, oh, it's because of Mark. Mark did it. I mean, you know, of course, give credit and the thought and everything, but let people give them the room to be who they are, you know? And it's like really a teamwork.
Yeah.
For sure.
I love that. Well, there's so much. I mean, what else is going on in your life now as we can wrap this up? I feel like I could talk to you for hours about many different things, but you have so, I mean, I've been watching from a distance and as we're working on different things together, but then also just seeing everything that you're doing within modeling, within dancing, within just your like, the comedy stuff that you put out on your page, and then now with fitness and everything too. And you're somebody that I admire so much and just see everything that you're doing, but no matter what you're doing it as yourself. When did you start formulating that? Have you ever had a moment where you're like, oh, I can only put one thing out because I'm getting more attention on those different things? Or how did you get so well-rounded within everything?
I would say for a while, I did feel like I have to continue just doing dance. But I feel like what it is for me is I get these ideas and I get these impulses that I feel like I have to say. Like it's been certain moments of my life that something happened and I feel like I have to talk about it. Like I have to do it. And if I don't do it, it's still there. It's not going anywhere. So I feel like maybe in the beginning people are not going to get it. Maybe it's going to be new to them. But I know that it's going to attract the right people. And if you don't like it, maybe it's best for you to not follow me because I want my community to be real, you know? And I think what it is that I followed always is that excitement. You know, I always get excited about certain things and then I just do them, you know? Even if maybe like my mind is going to tell me, no, you know, maybe they're not going to get it. But I'm like, it's going to be fun. I don't know, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, let them decide. Let them decide, or let the market decide what, you know, and bring the right people. Because so many people just put themselves into a box or like based on the engagements. And I see it so often, especially with people that are like, whether it's just modeling or something like that, and then they try to do something that they love aside from that, and then it doesn't do as well. Like, well, I'm not going to post that anymore. Let me just keep on posting this stuff, and then they just are only perceived as this one-sided individual. But we all are so complex and have all of these different things that we like, and it's so cool to see you take that throughout your branding and have people respond well to it. We like everything that you do. It feels like you're doing it very top notch.
Well, first, thank you, Mark. Likewise. I feel like what it is a lot of people look at what is already being created and they try to already follow a path that was already being walked in, you know, and they see other pages and other influencers and they say, okay, that model is doing this and these models, maybe I should do the same thing. But not a lot of people see the unseen, right? And you have to be able to understand, maybe if I can't see the path, maybe it is my job to create a new path. Maybe for me, maybe for others to follow. Right? But even if nobody else is doing what I'm trying to do, it doesn't mean it's not going to work. And I have to talk to these people. If I post a video and I say, okay, you guys, I know you've been waiting for this. It could be one person who DM'd me, when are you going to do this? And I'm going to act like it's 100 people. Like, guys, I know you've been waiting for this. It's finally here. You know, in my imaginary crowd, they are my biggest fans in my mind. And I see them. That's who I talk to. And guess what? Wherever I'm at right here, this 3D world is going to catch up.
Everything's going to follow.
It's going to catch up. What am I seeing? Right? Am I going to see what is already created? Guess what? What is already created is old news. You see things after they're created, but you don't see them as they are being created. Right? So you have to go back to being creator and understand I can create whatever I can see. If I can see it, I can do it. If I can see 50,000 people waiting for a video, I can do it. You know, and not do it for them, do it because it simply feels good for me. I'm so excited about these words. I like when I talk, I like to hear my voice. When I do it, why not? You know, so, and because you're excited about it, everybody else is going to be excited about it too. You can't sell something you're not excited about.
Absolutely.
Right? You have to be excited about things. And if you're excited about it, there's a reason for it. There's a reason it's interesting or intrigues you. And there's a reason it's calling you. Yeah. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, well, we love seeing it. We've been paying attention and are excited every time you drop something new, because that's what I love about art is that you can do a lot of the same different things, but you can always like surprise them with something new. And you know, there was a moment in time where I thought I didn't really realize what kind of artist I wanted to be until I started getting people, you know, arguing over a specific project that we released digitally. And I was like, oh shit, some people don't like it, but most people love it, but they're fighting over it. And then I realized, wait a second, I don't ever want to do anything just right down the middle. I want to put something out there that people are going to argue about and say that it was brilliant or it was not brilliant or like how like, where's this guy's mind at or whatever. Then I realized I was like, okay, this is what I want. But at first it scared the shit out of me.
Right.
So now but now moving forward within art and everything that we're doing, it's like, I want to, add a strategic layer to it that's going to be different, that people don't ever know what to expect. So based on everything that you're building, what are you most excited about now? I know you're doing like with the life coaching and within fitness and everything too. So what are you most excited about right now?
So I am well, actually, to be real, the thing I'm excited about the most right now is my first visit back home in Israel. After 4 years, this is the only thing I think about every day.
Wow.
I'm going to surprise my family. Don't tell nobody. I'm going to pull up on them like, what's up, y'all? It's been 4 years. You miss me?
I love that.
As far as career-wise and professional-wise, I'm super excited for the life coaching. I'm super excited to learn more about it and educate myself in a field that is definitely calling me. I'm super excited about acting. I feel like as a dancer, things happen very fast. Dance videos you can make pretty quickly. Music videos they come out after a month, 2 months, sometimes longer. But film take longer. So to get to the point that I have enough material to show who I am and what I do is super exciting. I feel like it's a different type of challenge, right? I dance in front of the camera and physically I express myself and it feels amazing. But when you speak, when you get into a different character, it's like the next level of that same expression. It's just the next level. So I like to continue challenging myself. I'm super excited for those two, the life coaching and the acting. And fitness, I feel like it's part of my life. I'm grateful to develop these habits of now I don't have to think about it. I just go to the gym and I look and you see the results, But like it just feels good, the habit. Like just to do it just because you're doing it. Just because, not for a result, not to get anywhere. Just to wake up in the morning and do it and to feel what your body is going through when you do it. And just for the simple act of just doing it, It doesn't have to bring you nothing. Just fun.
Yeah, and keep on following that fun, just like you said, from when you were growing up. So, well, thank you so much for doing this, especially last minute as we're figuring this out. I've been trying to do the Rodriguez project for about 2 years now, and so honored to have you as our very first guest on. So we'll definitely have you back now as we get to talk about so many more different things. But tell everybody where they can follow you, and I encourage you to do so because her brand is brilliant. So many great vibes. The entertainment is this next level. So where can they see all of that stuff?
First, it's my honor. Like, for real, I'm so grateful to be here. It's so much fun just sitting here and being around this energy. You guys can follow me on my Instagram at BossLadyK. It's YY_K. And my TikTok, if you want to see some funny stuff, it's at Kim Mantsur, KIMMANTSUR.
Amazing. Yes, please follow her. And then you can follow me at Mark Rodriguez TV and us at Mastermynd Media. Got a lot of new stuff in the works, but thank you so much for doing this. Thanks everybody for watching or listening in. Much more to come. We're doing one a week at least. Charles, thanks for running the ones and twos.
Shout out to Charles.
Yeah, and Phil, thanks for jumping in, man. But yeah, thank you so much for doing it. And we'll see you all next week.
Let's get it.